Enjoy the show.
Beaming at you from the depths of the internet.
This is the Temple of Geek Podcast, your one stop for all things geek.
Welcome to the Temple of Geek Podcast. My name is Elizabeth, and I will be your host today as we discuss the first 8 episodes of The Bad Batch Season 2. There will be spoilers for these episodes, so if you aren't caught up on The Bad Batch, press pause, check the episodes out, and then come back here. If this is your first time tuning into the Temple of Geek Podcast, welcome. The Temple of Geek Podcast has been around since 2012 and is hosted by a variety of geeks from the Temple of Geek team. Here we cover all manner of geek and pop culture news and events. To our returning listeners, thank you again for tuning in. We really appreciate you being here. With me today are Kari and Dannielle. Hello guys, welcome to the podcast. Can you please introduce yourselves to our listeners and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Dannielle. I'm at Written in the Star Wars on TikTok and DannyS394 on Twitter. And I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Kari, aka Star Wars Tia on Twitter and on TikTok, and Kari Skywalker on Instagram, and I'm happy to be back with Temple of Geek.
And then, as you guys might know, I'm Elizabeth, aka Lady of Time Cosplay on everything. Big Star Wars fan, really excited, love the animated stuff. So yeah, let's dive right in. So let's just start with overall thoughts of what we've seen of season 2 so far. The first 8 episodes. What did you guys think?
I really liked it. I thought it was a good natural continuation from the first season. It filled in a lot of information and some gaps, and just without kind of like feeding it to us slowly, not just handing us everything. So we get information slowly filled in from what was left over in season 1, and a lot of expansion and better characterization, I think, of some characters that we didn't really get in season 1. And I'm just really excited to see where else it goes from here. I thought it was a great start.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely loving it already. I know that a lot of people love to use, this is a filler episode with a lot of these shows and stuff. But I feel like with the Bad Batch, we're getting those side stories post-Empire that we haven't gotten in a lot of these shows, except for maybe Andor, that we know what's going on with everybody else in the galaxy other than the same main characters that we always get, and I love that. I love knowing what else is going on, how the people handling it, what are they thinking about it, and Bad Batch to me is handling that very well. I'm loving that they're giving us these stories, and I love that it seems like the theme for this season is going to be like basically them helping out people that are trying to run away from the Empire, like the clones or other, important characters that we've seen already. But yeah, definitely, it's been great so far.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying it. Like you said, there's a little bit less of like big, huge arcs and a little bit more like, I don't know. I feel like slice of life is better than filler episodes. When you get to see the little side missions that they go on, like in episode 4, which was one of my favorites because I love Ben Schwartz. But,
I have notes here. Let me see. Oh yeah, that was cool. That was a cool.
Yeah, I know. I have my notes up too because if I don't write stuff down, I will forget. But I like seeing those, especially because in those episodes that are maybe not part of the bigger story that they're telling and they're just part of like their everyday life, you still get more information. You still get more hints as to what's coming up and what could happen next. And I love seeing, we saw a lot of characters that we know are still around at this point, but we hadn't seen in season 1.
Yeah.
I had honestly...
Danny was going crazy.
Even though I had seen the trailer, I had honestly forgotten that Gunji was in it until I got to that episode. Which was embarrassing because I love him. He's such a cute little Wookiee, And I think also it's doing a really great job of showing how the clones are adjusting to life after the war, with the Empire, especially now that some time has passed, because the first season of Bad Batch picked up right away. We started with Order 66 because that's of what we do in Star Wars.
Filoni.
Order 66. Yeah, thanks, Filoni. And, now that some time has passed, it's interesting to see not just the Batch, questioning Order 66, questioning, hey, is this actually the right thing to do? And it's been really interesting seeing them take that and run with it a bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm really loving that. Especially, we'll talk about it more later, but just like just them not knowing what to do now that the war is quote unquote over, even though they're still being, excuse me, even though they're still being used by the Empire, they're not fighting. They're, doing these things that a lot of them are starting to question.
Yeah.
And so, but let's talk about the goodness. But let's talk about the 2-episode premiere. There's actually a couple times that Disney Plus is going to be putting out 2 episodes at once, including the first 2 episodes, Spoils of War and Ruins of War. Yeah. What did you guys think about these 2 episodes as the season opener?
I thought they were great season openers. Again, a really natural pickup from where season 2 left off without kind of reiterating a lot of things that they already went through at the end of the season. It just picks up immediately, and I really like that. The introduction and almost immediate execution of Captain Wilco hurt so bad. I had in my notes, Captain Wilco is fine. I really love him. I'm failing at my attempt to not fall in love with all the clones introduced in here. And then immediately after that is, no, Rampart. How could you? But it was necessary. Like the way that they did that, introduce him so quickly, make it seem like he's going to be an integral part of the season. And then bam, really necessary to show Rampart's growth as well. Not just the batches, not just the clones, but him, because he's such an important part of the story still. And I thought that was really great ending for the 2-episode arc. And I see why they wanted to release those together. Because it goes together so naturally, really sets up a tone together for the rest of the season that just episode 1 doesn't really do. Yeah. So having them together was just a really good choice, in my opinion, and a great opener.
No, I definitely agree with Dannielle. It was great introduction, and still giving the importance to Rampart, because he is an integral part, especially after what happened in, the last episode that we saw. And I also love that they touched on Dooku and what happened on Dooku's planet and his stuff. And I was like, this is what I'm talking about. Like these stories are interesting and they are important, because really what happened to all of Dooku's stuff after, he was dealt with, So I think it was a great opener. And interesting to see what the people in Dooku's planet, what they were. Yeah, even though we were separatists, it was for a reason. It's not just black and white like they painted it in the movies and stuff like that. It's just everything. There's for people do things for a reason. Is for their own protection, for their survival and stuff. It's not just because they're bad people. So I really love that. I really love that. We got to see. I hate that we get these new clones and then they take them away from us like that. But I mean, that's we already know it's to be expected, especially now that the clones are going to be starting to be phased out. Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of clones that they're going to get eliminated. Sadly, but it was a great 2-episode opener.
I know it's like so stressful, because the only clones we know survive much longer than this are Wolf, Rex, and Gregor. That's the only ones we know for sure are gonna be okay. Stressful. Like you guys were saying, I really enjoyed it. I think it did a good job of setting up the stakes for this season. One part that especially caught my attention, that I went and I rewound the episode a couple times so I could write down the exact quote, was Hunter and Echo's conversation about what they were going to do next. Because Echo says, we can do better things with Dooku's fortune than hide Hunter. With what we're up against, we have to be prepared to fight. That means numbers and weapons. Yeah. And Hunter says that's not the life this kid deserves. It's our lives are like this because of Omega. Taking off Kamino was the right thing to do, but there are others out there who need our help. We've seen what the Empire is doing throughout the galaxy. We should be doing more. And I was just like, oh, Echo, I hope you're okay, dude. Because you're such a good guy. I'm like, Echo, oh my gosh, you know, and the other thing, and another thing that I thought was really interesting too, is in the last season, we still saw a little bit of color in the clone's armor. I forget the clone commander's name from the episode on the Twi'leks planet. But, you know, he still had a little bit of green. He had still a little
Poppy Hauser, you mean?
Yes. Yes, thank you. I'm so bad. I'm so bad with character names. But
I remember him because that's Poppy Hauser.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But like in this season, like none of them have any color on their armor anymore.
Yeah.
And it was just so sad because at first I was like, wait, do we already have stormtroopers or are these clones? And I'm like, no, these are still clones. There's no more.
Did you see that their helmets now were changed to stormtrooper
That's
helmets?
That's why I was a little confused.
Cody still had his, like some of them still have theirs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was a little confused. Where I was like, are these stormtroopers or are they clones? And then
when I saw that, I was like, oh.
I was like, it was so sad. And then, you know, this is a little bit of a spoiler for episode 3 because we're talking about the first 2 episodes at this right now. But like even seeing Cody without his color on his armor, without the orange, I was just like, oh, stab me through the heart. You know, I was like, this is so sad, you know. And like you were saying, Kari, I also really enjoyed seeing Count Dooku's home planet and them getting those conversations with Romar, I believe is the character's name, about, you know, how, you know, hey, we existed before the war. And Tech says, I never thought about it like that. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, man, because like something that always sticks in my brain when I'm watching anything with the clones is I'm like, as long as Google's not lying to me about how old Rex is, Omega is probably technically older than the rest of the batch. Yeah. And so every time they mention her being a kid, every time, you know, like the scene with Romar where he's like, this is a toy. It's meant to make you happy. That's better than any treasure in the world. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, they're all kids. They're all kids. I'm like, I know that, you know, they have the accelerated growth, but I'm just like, every time I'm just like, you're all children. And I'm very sad about this entire situation, you know. So it was a great opener. I love it, you know. It's always great when they are able to show the other sides of the conflict, even though the Clone Wars are over. I love seeing the other angles on that, especially, and they continued that in episode 3 too, which was yes. Talk about that a little bit, but the first 2 episodes were really, really great. And the other like random thought that I had was, you know, as they're plunging to their doom, I'm like, this would be a fun ride at Disney.
Let's go into Dooku's container and just go down.
I'm like, hey, if they ever need another retheme for Tower of Terror, this works. This works. But yeah, so talking a little bit about episode 3, you know, we got a lot of new and returning for the first time this season characters just in these first few episodes. Who were you most excited to see this season that we didn't see last season? I'm feeling I know the answer, but
I know Dannielle.
Well, as far as who we knew was going to be appearing for the first time this season, Cody for me, obviously. As soon as I heard his name in the trailer, I have been just like really excited because that's been the big question for so long is what happened to Cody after the end of the Clone Wars canonically, because we have legends, a little bit in Legends of what happened to him, that he stayed in the Empire. We know what Dave Filoni was gonna do in Rebels, but that he ended up scrapping, which was keep Cody in the Empire until he was of old age in Rebels, but he ended up not doing that. And so it's always been, what is Cody going to do? Is he going to stay in the Empire? Is he going to leave? We don't know. And so seeing him was really emotional for me. Like, even though I knew he was coming, as soon as he showed up, I was like, oh my God, it's Cody.
Yeah, like as soon as Rampart was like, you know, you're going to meet him at the Clone Memorial. And I was like, that's the thing from the trailer. Oh my gosh, here he comes.
And what I love so much about it is that it's funny that you mentioned how heartbreaking it is to not see his sunburst orange on his armor, and it really is. But what stood out to me and what always did, even in the trailer, was that he still had his markings, even if they were gray. He still has his markings, and those are individuality. That is his identity. And the fact that he kept it, despite being made to paint it gray, paint over the orange, get rid of that, he still kept it, all of it. Really spoke to me about how he views himself post Order 66. Yeah. And what I loved about this episode was the little things they put in besides that to point at that. The fact that in episodes 1 and 2, we hear the clones refer to each other by their numbers, not their names, except for very rarely we'll hear Captain Wilco. But in episode 3, Cody never refers to his brothers by their numbers, always by their names. Yes. And as soon as I heard that, I said, he's still there. He's not going to stay in the Empire. He's still referring to his brothers by their names. He's going to defect. And then when one of his men died, and he tried to go after him and tried to grab his body, and Crosshair pulled him back, I said, that's still Cody. That's still Cody. He's gonna end up defecting. And my love.
I cheered at the end of the episode when they said he was gone. I was like, yes, I will. Yes.
Hey, well, that's what I wrote. I was like, Cody,
good job. Good job.
I knew you could do it,
buddy. Oh man. So no, definitely Cody was one that I was of course waiting for, but Gunji was like my most anticipated because I love that little Wookiee. I was like, oh my god, please, Filoni, don't do this to me. You give him to me, and then just nothing happened to him. But we'll talk about Gunji when we get to the episode and stuff. But that was my most the one that I was anticipating. But Cody was definitely a second. And Dannielle read my mind because I wanted to bring that up because every time they refer to each other as their numbers, it like just hurts my soul. And then when I heard Cody, like, the slip, I think was one of them, and like calling them by names, I was like, Cody, my dear, I know you're gonna end up leaving. I know it already. And but you could see the hints, when he tried to negotiate with what's her name, Tawny Ames, the governor from that planet. And I love that they brought up Mina Bonteri by name. Yes. It was cool. Yes. Nice little callback there. And then how bad he felt when Crosshair actually killed her. And then he started questioning, are we doing the right thing and stuff like that. So that was amazing. It was nice to know that, yes, they're going to give us a good, a redeeming Cody, with that episode. I love seeing all the clankers again, all the tactical droids and stuff. That was really cool. It's a lot of nice little, callbacks with in that episode. It was really cool.
Same. Seeing Cody was really great, especially, like I said, I cheered at the end when they said that he was gone. I was like, yes, good job. Now come back in another episode because I want to know more. I want to know you're okay. And Gunji was great. Like I said, I had kind of forgotten that he was in it until I was watching the episode. I'm like, oh yeah, and it was such a good episode too. So like it was. Kashyyyk terrifies me on a very basic level because of it. There's giant spiders in the Jedi Fallen Order game of Kashyyyk.
Oh my god! I was like, no.
Ooh, like I'm not arachnophobic, but holy cow, those spiders! Especially because there's like one of the scenes, like you stand in a certain spot and it just triggers a jump scene where this giant spider. And so I thought that they were going to show up, and then they were like something else. And I'm like, Kashyyyk is just full of giant, terrifying creatures.
I have in my notes Jedi Fallen Order flashbacks.
Oh yeah, I thought that too with the puzzle in the episode where they go to that planet with Fee. I was like, this feels like a Jedi Fallen Order puzzle.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is fun. But yeah, it was so great to see him and to get more of the Wookiee culture too.
That Wookiee lore was so awesome. It was really cool.
The trees,
so great to see.
To the trees.
Yes.
How they talked to them, and like I was like, oh.
Yeah. And you could kind of see Hunter's face like, I don't know, but okay, if it works, And it was just such a sweet episode.
Yeah.
I also really like seeing Senator Chuchi back.
Yes.
That was really great.
And she's advocating for the clones. I was like, yes, let's go,
which
Chuchi.
I loved. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm making this up in my own head, but like she had her hair like Padme's.
She did. And she had those things.
The little the things.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, that was like my heart. Especially because the clones' welfare was a big thing for Padme as well, So it was really great to see her. It was great to see Senator Bail Organa too. He's great. Was he in the last episode? I can't remember. Or in the last season, I can't remember if he was or not. But but it was great to see them.
Yeah, because we didn't really we were only in Coruscant that I think first episode, right? And then after that we didn't really go back
a little
there.
tiny bit. So the Senator Chuchi having her hair like Padme's, I was just like, while she's running around Coruscant doing spy stuff,
Padme's like stuff,
I was like, this is like, I know that this isn't a show about the clones, but I'm glad to see that they're working in some of Padme's legacy to that, because I was just like, yay. Love her, miss her.
And Senator Chuchi, she was another big one because I wasn't expecting her at all. Not at all. But she's another big question that people have had, especially, obviously huge fans of the Clone Wars, is where is she? What happened to her after Order 66? And so to have that answer. Also, there are moments when you know that fan fiction is going to change forever. This was one of those moments. When she stepped into 79s, I was like, fan fiction is going to have a ball.
Right there.
And it was just so well done. And I really loved getting to see her interact with Rex and with Omega. Oh, her relationship with Omega was so good.
Yes.
Even though I was like, Omega, we don't tell this lady you're a clone. Please stop.
Don't tell Halle.
I was like, Omega, what are you doing? Because Bertoni looked at her like,
let's not tell her she's crazy.
Not this woman.
I know. I'm like, Omega, I know your thing is like planning, but like, let's think.
Come on, Omega, strategy right now.
Yes,
strategy.
I know. I'm like, no, not. This was a bad idea. I'm like, this is gonna come back to bite you in a few episodes, I feel like. Oh man. So, like, what about the new characters? Do you guys have any favorites of the new characters that were introduced so far?
I really loved Fee.
She was cool.
She's intriguing because I don't really know how her story is going to unfold yet. Like, she's in this season for a reason. Yes. And so far we've only really had, just kind of like funny little asides with her. And then episode 4?
Or episode Treasure Hunt?
Episode 5 was episode 5, Entombed.
So episode 5 is where we got most of her, and that was such a fun episode. And it really showed, I think, her relationship with Omega, I think, is opening Omega's eyes to possibilities for her future and what that might look like as she grows older, if she inevitably, leaves her brothers. And I like that. I like that we're seeing characters introduced who challenge Omega's way of thinking and who challenge the way that Hunter is raising her and the way that, her brothers are raising her, because that's not the only way. And she needs to inevitably find her own way in the galaxy. Even if, all of the batch does survive, they have accelerated aging. She doesn't. Eventually, she's going to be on her own, and she has to start figuring out what she's going to do. As much as I hate thinking about that,
I know.
But, it's characters like Fee that really kind of add to that and further her growth, I think.
No, same. Fee it's really cool. I like her, and since she considers herself a pirate, I think right. It gives me, hope that I might see my boo, Hondo again.
I know. I was thinking that. I'm like, they gotta be friends.
She has to know Hondo. It's impossible that they don't. So I'm hoping that she's gonna bring, maybe a callback or him, and end the season at all. But I love her that again. Yes, like Dannielle said, that's adventurous spirit that is going to influence Omega in the same way. Like she's gonna know that and especially important that it was a woman, that she's seeing a woman being like that, you know, because now Omega could be like, see, I could do the same thing, you know, even though I'm a girl or I'm a woman, whenever she gets older, like I can do this too. And it gives her that confidence that she's definitely going to need once, you know.
Goodness forbid.
Yes. Once they're not around anymore, you know. But yeah, that was a really cool character that they introduced. I liked her.
Yeah, I loved Fee as well. She like reminded me, I'm gonna be a Doctor Who fan for a second, but she reminded me a lot of like River Song, especially with her like attitude towards treasure hunting. She has a line, I think it's something along the lines of, I prefer to think of myself as a liberator of ancient wonders or something to that effect. And I'm like, you are somewhere between, like if River Song and Captain Jack Sparrow had a baby, maybe that would be you. She's just so cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I feel like the Entombed episode, I feel like a lot of people could, you know, brush aside as like, oh, that's just a filler episode. They're treasure hunting again. But like it's really... it's an important episode because it's, again, them trying to find a way to make sure that they're taking care of themselves and taking care of Omega. And like you guys were saying, it's Omega seeing of more of what's out there, discovering that, you know, there's more. I think especially because she mentions that temple or whatever that was older than the Jedi, which I thought was really interesting. I was like, ooh, are we going to get some High Republican here maybe a little bit? But, and again, like the entire episode, I'm like, this is a Jedi Fallen Order level. It
is. Like, it reminded me of Zepho so much. And it made me think, like, are they tying it into that? Because the Zepho were older than the Jedi as well. But they still had ties to the Force.
That thing looked a lot like a Zepho thing now that you mentioned that.
Because with the energy thing and like the guards that you have in that, when Cal goes through and they exert that energy that can kill you.
That's a really good point.
That's really cool. And I love that it's...
Cal has to show up in one of these things.
Yes, I know, right? God. I mean, in pause. I mean,
come on. You got him in the last episode.
That's why it's so familiar to Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
But I love that it expanded on the like it's more world building. You see, it's not just, don't call it a filler episode. It's building this, it's expanding on the lore, and now we get this thing that is like older than the Jedi. Is like, what the hell is that? Like, and it's pure energy. Like, who built that? You know?
Yeah, and the other as I was doing my notes for the episode, I was like, is that a Kyber crystal? And then I'm like, this is a very much like a Death Star laser beam coming out of this guy's mouth. I was like, if Palpatine is having them followed somehow, he might be taking notes, you know. I'm like, I'm a little worried about this, but he's such a cool character.
If Palpatine would have been the one to find that, it would have been, because you saw that thing destroyed the whole planet, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, and so she's such a cool character, and she is a really good way to like have the Batch have to interact with other sides of the galaxy. And then I also really love Teo because I love Ben Schwartz. Like immediately, like in my notebook, I'm like I wrote in all caps, Ben Schwartz, is that you? I'm like, because I'm a big DuckTales fan and I like some other things too. But I'm like, I think they just pointed Ben Schwartz at a microphone and said, "Go, like have fun. This time you get to be a droid." That's because I gotta Google this or something, but he had something to do with creating BB-8's voice. And so it was like cool for him to be in Star Wars as a droid that you can actually understand. And, you know,
he was so sassy.
It was like Dewey Duck as a droid. I was like, I'm like, whatever. And I also enjoyed the fact that, you know, they made his little faceplate and eye color blue. I'm like, he's got another blue boy under his belt. He voices all the blue characters.
Oh, the blue one?
He's Dewey Duck. He's Sonic the Hedgehog. I do not know the names of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but he's the blue one in that too.
That's Leonardo.
Okay. Leonardo. Yeah, I don't know their name. I just know that he's the blue one, you know. So it's just it was amusing to me at least that they made Teo blue. Yeah. Because I'm like, another blue guy for Ben Schwartz. So, you know, just for all because we talked a lot about the first two episodes and a bit about episode 3, but like just from anything, what were your favorite like moments or exchanges between the characters that stood out to you so far?
Mine was Echo and Omega. We have been begging for more Echo and Omega time since season 1, and I thought that it was done really, really well this season. From the beginning of the first episode, when Omega overhears Echo's conversation with Hunter, and she thinks that Echo is blaming her for everything, when really it's much more complicated than that. Is Echo thinks that it was the right choice. They did the right choice to save Omega, but it's because they saved Omega that he knows they can save other people too, other brothers, other clones. And really Omega enlightened him, I think, is what Echo was trying to get the point across of, but Omega, of course, misunderstood it. Yeah, of course. And then the moment in I think it's episode 2, when Omega tries to go back to the crate to get the money, and Echo follows her, and he tells her, leave the bag, it's not worth it. And she's like, but it's worth it to you. And he's like, no, it's not. You are important, not that. And we'll find another way. That was really heartbreaking for me. And then, of course, episode 8. I did not see that coming.
No.
And so when Hunter started saying, all right, well, let us know if you ever need anything, I was like, wait, what? Like exactly in Omega's shoes, like, excuse me? If you need something, what are you talking about? Won't you know that? And so that, and obviously it hit Omega hard. And I was just thinking when I was typing up my notes, that Hunter, Tech, and Wrecker all know what it's like to not have Echo on their team. But Omega doesn't. She's only ever known them with Echo. And like, that's her family. Like, they are her family 100%. And now a part of that is not going to be there anymore. And for very valid reasons and important reasons for him. And I think that Echo's decision is going to affect Omega, whether it's, she misses him a little bit more than the rest of them, or she starts to think about why he made the decision he did, and that affects any decision she makes in the future as well. Yeah. So that was really important to me. I thought they did that really well, and I hope that that's not all that we get this season. I don't think it will be, but
there's no way they're completely kicking Echo out of the show.
No. I think, like I said, I think the season's gonna focus on getting people help, and helping them escape the Empire and stuff. And Echo is gonna be a big. Rex and Echo are like one of the biggest parts of that. So I think we're gonna get more. It's just that now, the Bad Batch is gonna be also, joining them at certain points, maybe helping in some other place that they, that they need them in. So that's that. I think that's gonna. He's gonna come back. There's no way. They know we love Echo. So, and that was heartbreaking. I was like, Omega, I'm sorry. First you lost Crosshair, now you're losing Echo. It's like, I also loved, I like that they finally gave us a happy ending with Gunji. Because, I immediately thought that they were going to present them just to like, okay, that's it. We're going to lose them again. But I love that they actually, gave him a somewhat happy ending and stuff. And also the question of who was the one that wanted Gunji in the first place. Like, who was the one that was buying them? Because they just said, "Oh, my client is interested and wants him alive," and I was like,
"The client,
the client, yeah." I was like, "Who? Who's the client?"
Mandalorian vibes.
You,
And also another interesting thing was the clone that was brainwashed. The one that was, I was like, oh, now they're adding another, like, wait, a curveball. I'm like, brainwashed clones now? And so it's it's not just the chip anymore. It's now that they're really like, oh, believe. I was like, did he just say believe? Like, is this now a religious type of thing? Like, what are we talking about here? So I'm guessing they're going to expand on that, in the next episode. So that's very interesting as well.
Yeah, because they do like scans and stuff on Crosshair last season to like see why he followed the Order 66, but the other guys didn't, and maybe maybe they did some research and did something to the other clones to see.
I don't know. Yeah, I think they did do scans, but we never learned what it was for.
Yeah.
Because it was after after the explosion. And that's when he got his scar on the side of his head.
Because that's when he got it removed, right? The chip
Supposedly,
was removed after that. Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be something interesting that I guess we're gonna see, because I'm guessing there's more clones like that too, you know, which is crazy. I just feel bad because now they're gonna use these clones for that, and it's like they're gonna make them even more expendable, you know. So it's just it just sucks. And
clone simps are never
last interesting
happy.
point is I hate Palpatine with every fiber of my life, but that little motherfucker is too smart, man. Oh my God, he is just diabolically smart, and I have to respect him forever for that, because the way that he turned that shit around at the end for his own benefit, that was beautiful. That was genius. And I mean, you know, it just keeps showing us why Palpatine was able to do everything that he did and get what he wanted, because he's just that conniving and that smart.
He has contingency upon contingency upon contingency. It's like he's thought to like the nth degree of what could possibly happen, and has a plan ready. And it's just, it makes you so infuriated, because they worked so hard to do this, and Rampart did get kicked out, but at what cost?
Palpatine still got what he wanted.
I know.
Even more. He got it even better than what he wanted.
Even better than before.
Yeah, him rising up, because like I remembered seeing him in the trailer, but I thought that was gonna be like a last episode thing, and I was like, oh, we're doing this now.
We've seen the majority of the trailer scenes, I think, already.
Yeah, I know. Well, what I found was interesting was I went back and rewatched the trailers that have come out so far, and apart from like maybe a couple very brief flashes, I'm pretty sure that most, if not all, of the trailers are just these first 8 episodes. I don't think, which
I think so.
is potentially in part to hide the fact that Echo's not there, you know? But I was like, oh, we really don't know what's coming after episode 8, do we? Because it's not been in any of the trailers.
I know so many people are going to be so happy when they see, and I'm glad that they left Chuchi as a surprise for everybody. I know they're going to be so excited. I know people are going to be so excited knowing that Cody went AWOL, because we don't know. Everybody's just like in suspense of what the hell happened to, you know, what's going to happen with Cody now that we know that he's there, you know? And
for sure.
You know what I like too? How Crosshair also started kind of like, wait. He started, I was like, yes, Crosshair, yes,
Holy cow. They left him there for 38 days or something. I was like, and you still want to fight for that?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you kidding me?
He had a callous moment. He had a total callous moment so in Rebels, when Callus is considering defecting after he spends time with Zeb, there's a part where he sits on his bed, and he's just thinking, and he's like, he goes through the process, and he wakes up, he goes through the process, and then afterwards he's sitting on his bed just like contemplating everything. And that was the big moment for Callus, where it finally was like, he might defect, he might leave. And Crosshair had that moment too, so now I'm like, I still don't know for sure what's going to happen, but they gave us that parallel for a reason, I think. For people who've seen Rebels, you're going to recognize this. And that's exactly what I thought, because he was just sitting there the same way, just like, what is life? You know, like, what am I doing with myself? And maybe it'll take a little bit longer than what it took with Callus, because Crosshair is really into, you know, this is what we're supposed to do. We follow orders and stuff. But the fact that he is is having some kind of little doubts and stuff, that's very big for Crosshair. Being that he was always the same way, and now he's rethinking things, that's a very big step for him, for sure. Well, and he doesn't want to acknowledge the wrongs he's done. Like, I think that's why I have it written down what Cody says. What makes us different from battle droids? We make our own choices, our own decisions, and we have to live with them too. Cody's ready to live with them.
I think that hit him.
Because Crosshair, and it made me question, like, I don't know if either of you questioned this, when Crosshair killed the governor.
I thought he was going to kill Cody.
When Crosshair killed the governor, I immediately was like, okay, damn it, Crosshair, why? But then I thought, did he do that because that was the order? Or did he do it because he knew what would happen to Cody if they didn't follow the order? And he has so much respect for Cody. He always has.
Does. Yes.
And if he knew that there was if they didn't kill the governor and Cody like went down as disobeying orders to that extent, what would happen to him? And so maybe Crosshair made the decision, Cody can't kill her, I'll kill her.
Because the governor could have told him
that was him saving Cody.
Yeah, because the governor could have told Crosshair like, now you got to kill Cody too for disobeying me or something, you know. And they could get away with stuff like that. And
I was so worried that he was going to kill Cody.
In that moment. Me too. But it could be what Dannielle said. Yeah,
it's like, don't you dare.
But I like that could be definitely a possibility that Crosshair was like, you know what, let me just do this so Cody does not get in trouble, you know, whatever.
Yeah, because he's so hard to read because he's very just like stoic, you know. Another interesting part that I thought was really interesting in that episode was how for like, maybe not the first time, because I've only watched Clone Wars through like one time all the way through and rewatched bits and pieces, but it was really interesting where we had an episode where it was completely framed that the battle droids were the good guys and the clones that were coming were the bad guys. I was like, this is so interesting. Like, you know, because I think in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, that's always how the Separatists have seen it. But it was just really interesting to see that on screen, to see that be like, this is the other side of what this conflict was the battle droids were protecting them from the clones who were under orders to basically do war crime. You know, I was like, it was just such an interesting moment. Like, just as I was watching the episode, I like, you know, of course I was excited to see Cody, but I was like, as I was watching the episode, I was like, this is, you know, like I would love to have have had more episodes of the Clone Wars from the Separatist side of things, so that you know, it was a little less black and white.
Yes.
Yeah, like episode 3 was just really, really good. Outside of even just you know, having Cody come back, like it was a really well thought out.
It just
episode.
really makes you think, like you said, because of those parallels. It's like, wow, now the other side. You know, like the first 2 episodes, the other side. You know, that we never thought about, like Echo said. So
and I also, in the later episodes, when Shuchi's talking to the other clones at the bar, and she's like, what do you need? What, you know, and she was thinking, you know, like, oh, they want to, you know, so they can retire, so they can, you know, live out the rest of their lives and, you know, relative peace or whatever. And the one clone's just like, I need to remain a trooper, because that's all they know.
They don't know anything else. What is life after war for them? They have no idea.
Yeah, because it's all they've ever known. It was what they were. It was what they were grown for. It was what they were created for. And I didn't write down the exact quote, but the one clone says, you know, we're not trained to think about that. They're not trained to think about after the war, after their service is over. Like, to them, they're done when they die in battle or on a mission or something. And I was like, this is so heartbreaking to think about. And, you know, we do know that ultimately they don't wind up being treated well between, you know, Rex and Wolf and Gregor kind of winding up on that backwater planet, having to, you know, go for their own food. But even just the clone trooper that we saw in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That clone.
Yeah, that poor guy, like, he was, you know, it was sitting there. He had to beg, because the Empire ultimately is not going to look after these guys. They are not going to take responsibility for the life that they created. And it's just heartbreaking to think about.
What was so good about that, you know, the last part of the 8th episode, as frustrating as it is to see Palpatine win time after time again. It's like, you know, it has to happen because he stays in power until the end of the original trilogy. But to see how it happens over and over again, especially with this one, because now instead of just phasing out the clones, now they're being blamed. And they're the antagonizers. They're the ones who orchestrated suddenly the Camino devastation. They're the ones who have no heart, have no soul, don't care about any of this. And so it's easy to see how where they are now becomes where we see that clone in Kenobi, and how they're just not trusted anymore, and they're not people aren't sympathizing with them because what they remember is what they've been told most recently, which is that they are just mindless soldiers.
Mindless, yeah.
And that hurts, but it's such a good connection. And like so well done, so brilliantly done that I'm like, oh, I hate it, but also it's very good storytelling.
It's brilliant. It's great storytelling. Yes.
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job, especially this season, of kind of coming at the clone stories from a couple different angles that maybe they didn't always explore fully in other stories.
That's what the Bad Batch is, and I will defend the show with my life because of that. Because don't tell me this is so boring and this is just what was the point of this? There's a point to everything, even if it's a fun episode like the racing thing.
Yes, I was like, it's pod racing.
That was a huge tech character episode.
Yes.
I even wrote down in my notes.
Finally, because we always see Tech doing like the side stuff, and now we see Tech actually taking control and in charge. I was like, oh, let's go, Tech! Look at you.
Yeah, like I'd even written down in my notes. I'm like, this is nice to see Tech's skill set, applied to something other than just hacking something. And like this is him being very analytically minded and being able to figure out the patterns. And I'm like, can I have your brain so I can be good at video games? So I'm really bad at them. Like like as excited as I am for Jedi Survivor, to like play it the day it comes out, I know I'm going to struggle because all of the like how-to guides are not going to be written.
That's so true.
I am on the struggle bus a lot of times with video games, even on story mode.
You know what I also liked from that episode was because they emphasize in the end about Sid and like listen, her the big boss saying don't trust her.
Yeah.
Like, so are they, maybe that's a hint that maybe Sid's going to end up betraying them, down the line at some point for some reason. So I'm like, oh my God. All right.
Yeah. It's another one of those, like, just because it's not a big, huge, high stakes tying into the larger storyline of Star Wars episode doesn't mean you're not getting vital information for what else is coming.
Yeah.
Because we know, I'm telling you, this is integral Bad Batch, and because they're gonna be helping these people out that want to defect or want to leave the Empire or need to go into hiding. That was a huge thing in Star Wars. Is all these people getting rescued in the background because and then if Sid ends up betraying them somehow, that's how they fall with the Bad Batch. That's gonna be a big blow to that. What do they call it? The path, right? In Kenobi?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Because maybe that's the that they're going to help maybe start that path that we end up seeing in Kenobi. You never know. I mean, just saying.
I know, because they're even outside of Kanan and Gungi, like I know I've seen like theories online, like, is Omega Force sensitive, which I don't know if I believe that or not, but it would be. It would be a very, I don't know if poetic is the right word, but it would be a great way to kind of have the clones, even though Order 66 is not the clones' fault, they had the programming in, but it would be really neat. Yeah, it would be really neat if it was clones who started setting up the way for, the Jedi who have survived to be safe, because
they were the first ones to do it with Gungi. That was them doing it with Gungi for the first time, which is I would love that.
Letting Kanan, though he doesn't go by Kanan at that point, letting Kanan escape in the first episode too. Well, it would be really interesting. Like I do like it when Star Wars doesn't focus on the Jedi all the time, but it would be a very interesting story to have them kind of be part of that. I feel like one of the episodes season. Yeah.
Well, I think that
it would be interesting.
It would be natural because the Jedi and the clones go hand in hand, and they always have. They were meant to be counterparts to the Jedi. That's what they were trained for, because the Mandalorians versus the Jedi have a huge history, and Jango Fett was a part of the Mandalorians, even if not by birth, by claim. And so to have that, it's natural to have a Jedi and a clone story interweave. And I think we see that a lot also with just how insistent Rex is on protecting Ahsoka, even to the Batch in season 1, where he won't even tell Echo, and Echo knew Ahsoka, who it was who helped him, because he has to protect her. He knows she's in danger. And going off of that, I think it is so interesting that the place that Rex has his hideout on Coruscant is Rafa and Trace's shop.
Yes,
Rafa
I love that.
I'm like,
the Martezas. I was like,
I am sure that part of this is I'm sure part of that was like saving on building sets, but at the same time, it also really worked out with the story. So,
but it also has to mean that Ahsoka made that connection with them, and so because there's the big question of like, when did Rex and Ahsoka finally part ways? And we know that he was waiting for her after Padme's funeral, and that inevitably they have to part ways because Rex obviously stays helping and Ahsoka has to go into hiding. But in the time between, she had to be the one who made the connection between him and Rafa and Trace. And I think that this just like adds even more to that, because if Rex is, we knew that he's connected to Rafa and Trace from season 1, but not how deeply they were connected. And they let him use their shop when they're not on Coruscant. So I thought that was a really cool tidbit that I hope gets added on to later.
Yeah. So since we're like in this vein anyway, so let me just ask, any thoughts on what might happen in the next half of the season? What are you hoping for, and what are you worried might happen? Especially with some of these episode titles, I'm like, I don't know about that.
My biggest hope, and I will hold on to it until the end of the season, is that we get Wolf.
Yes,
we have to. We have to know how he gets on with Rex and Gregor. Like, we got Gregor last season, so we have to get Wolf at some point. I could see them not having him this season, but I really hope so. And my big, if I had to make a guess on what episode it would be, it's episode 10, which is the retrieval, I think, or retrieval. Yeah. And so I won't be disappointed if we don't get Wolf, but I would be very, very happy if we did. And on a bit of a more serious note, I think that we'll maybe see obviously what's happening to the other clones, like that we saw with the kind of bounty hunter type clone that Rampart had employed. I have some theories on that. I can never remember if it's canon that introduced the idea of reconditioning on the clones, or if that's purely fan fiction based. Kind of blur the lines sometimes. But there is a storyline around somewhere about reconditioning in the clones, and that was kind of a form of punishment that could happen to them, where their minds are completely like brainwashed, like I think like you had said, and they're conditioned to just follow orders specifically and not deviate from it. And this kind of seems like maybe they might be going down that route, maybe with the clones that were still at Camino that they evacuated, who were still growing and hadn't been sent out to war yet by the end of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I hope maybe we'll get a little bit of that continued throughout the season.
Yeah. Just like, I think we're just going to get more important rescues, hopefully. So we might see some more big names, of them helping out, trying to escape and hide and take into hiding. So I'm hoping we are going to get, that's why we don't get any more in the trailers, because it's going to be like, oh, and I'm happy that they're giving us, surprises like they did with Chuchi and stuff. So I'm hoping that we get more big names like that of the Bad Batch helping them out and stuff. And, and I am interested also in the whole thing with the brainwashing with the clones, like, because if they are doing that, is because they know that if anybody in the galaxy sees the clones doing anything bad, they're just like, you see, it's just clones. That's just what they do, and that's how they're gonna keep viewing them, like Dannielle said before. So I'm also interested in see how the story that's gonna unfold with that as well.
For sure, yeah. I'm hoping that since now there's kind of like an in with Echo leaving and going with Rex, that we'll maybe get like an episode or two with Rex and Echo. Since because I feel like possibly why we haven't seen a lot of Rex is because they're like, oh, we want to keep this, even though there's been like a couple episodes where it's a lot of like setup before the batch comes in, like the episode with the Twi'leks and Hera, or the first episode of the mid-season finale, for lack of a better term, I guess. In this season, where there was a lot of setup, a lot of like, Senator Shuji and Bail and everything, hopefully now that we have an in with, hey, Echo is still technically a member of the Bad Batch, so yes, the show is called The Bad Batch, and so he's here, and so this works, and we can do an episode with him. Because I'd love to just, like, kind of know what Rex's setup is like. Like, where is he based out of? Like, is he hiding out on Coruscant, or is he somewhere else? Who else is a part of this very early, because, I mean, we know that the Organas were very early in on setting up the rebellion. And as much as they kind of shortened and did weird stuff to the Ahsoka novel in the episode of Tales of the Jedi, where it kind of sort of ish adapted the novel, it'd be interesting to like hear about Ahsoka maybe a little bit, like a mention or so. Much as I love her, I don't want her to show up yet. It's still a little early. Excuse me, because we're only like a couple months into the Empire, I think, at this point. I think
it's too early for Fulcrum, no?
It's not even been a year yet, and I think around a year is when she joins.
Because I feel like we kind of wound up with like maybe stories up across like a couple months in the first season, and then we know there was at least like a month and a half between, when, if not more, because who knows how long Crosshair was recuperating, but we know he was stuck on Camino for over 30 days and he still wants to fight for them. That's every time I think about that, I'm like, dude, really? Come on. So hopefully we'll get some Rex and Echo and, maybe a little bit of the early rebellion. Especially because I feel like, so Andor was a very like grown-up show. Like there was nothing that really kept kids from watching it, but I feel like what they're doing with this season of Bad Batch is they are telling that story again about making sure you're helping your community in times of crisis, but in a more child-friendly, in a way that kids can understand a little bit more, because even though, I'm not saying this is a children's show. I mean, it's geared towards children. It's everybody can enjoy it, but this is
the tone is very it's more
it's different. It's still this right. It's a similar story. It's a similar like lesson, for lack of a better word. But so it's really interesting to like see it from that perspective too. And like you said, I'm hoping we see Greg Wolf at some point, because they gotta figure out what he's doing. Dude,
if we get Luthen in the Bad Batch, I'm gonna pass out.
That would be really cool. I mean, depending on where Wolf was when Order 66 came through, Plo Koon's mask is in his little shop antique thing, if you watch.
Wolf wasn't with Plo when Order 66 happened. Yeah, Plo was leading a different group of clones.
Okay. See, like I said, I don't know Star Wars as good as I know other stuff.
Okay. I'm just obsessed with Wolf.
Yeah.
So.
Gotcha. That's fair. That's fair. Luthen being in this would be really cool. It's because it like like I said, it's very.
I mean, at some point he's gonna have to appear. I'm hoping in some other show prior to what was going on with in Andor, because I guess maybe to give them a little bit more exposition on his life and how he ended up where he ended up, like, because we're just speculating that maybe he was part of the Empire when it first formed, and then he did something really messed up, or something happened that made him like, be like, all right, no, that's it. We need to go fight this shit,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I could see us seeing Saw again, because we saw him in the first season.
Yeah, easily. Easily.
And we know from Rebels that it's very loose and not clear, but it's kind of implied that Rex spent some time with Saw, and his why can't I think of the word? His Saw. Faction. He spent some time with Saw's rebels at the beginning of the Empire. So it would make sense that maybe Rex, when he's not on Coruscant, is with Saw's group.
Because where is he? I mean, I know that Bill is helping him and stuff, but like, who else is? Because Rex gets around too easily. Like he has no problem going from place to place. This is the poncho, yeah. The poncho's the magic.
Maybe Rex and Cal can meet up and swap ponchos.
Cal's got a lot for him to choose from.
maybe Rex can get that pink one. Be a good look for him.
It's like he has a Superman effect. You know, he puts the glasses on. No, completely different person.
But at least he didn't have his armor, his big bulky armor in the poncho this time.
I'm like, my guy. I'm like, listen.
Rex, honey, you could take it off. It's okay.
It's okay, baby.
I know. That made me think of another thing that I'm hoping for is I really hope, I mean, she's got her own kind of like little outfit now, but I'd love Omega to have her own armor and her own helmet if for no other reason than I want to make one.
Yeah. She has kind of a little mini helmet. No.
Yeah. I mean, because I've done some Mandalorian cosplays, mostly like I did a Time Lord one and I did a Spider Mandalorian.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay,
because that's just how my brain
works.
That's
right. I saw the pictures. Yeah, they look really cool.
yeah. The helmet's actually right over there, but it's like behind a bunch of stuff.
Pretty sure when she gets a little bit older, she's gonna have some fire armor and stuff.
Yeah. I just hope she doesn't get the armor. I just hope she doesn't get through the armor through virtue of anybody dying.
Oh God, no.
Oh God,
that's like my worry.
Please no. Well, I mean, eventually, but
I know.
Not yet.
And then I've also seen rumors and speculation that Boba Fett might show up this season, which would be interesting.
Too. That would be fun.
Especially, hey, you have a sister. What? Congrats. This is like the basic Star Wars line. You have a relative you did not know about. Congratulations.
I mean, and all of them can appear in the Bad Batch because it would make sense. Yeah. At this point in time, it would make sense to see all of these people again,
Yeah.
And in the thing. It's not, it wouldn't be fan service, like another word that they love using. It wouldn't be fan service because they're part of the story at this time.
Yeah.
All of them. So
for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ways this can go. I'm really interested to see the last half of the season, and then for those of you listening, we are recording this on New Year's Day. You've seen the first 8 episodes. We have access to the next half, except for the season finale. So that's going to be an interesting wait for all.
Yeah, it's
like
we're going to have to wait so much.
I know, like it's fun getting to see this stuff ahead of time, but then you have to wait. One, to talk about it with everybody, which is why I love doing the podcast when we get the screeners, because it's you got to get it out somehow, or else you're going to accidentally spoil
especially
it for somebody.
It's going to be 1 episode per week, so we got to wait.
Yeah,
it's been
eating at me.
I know the season opener. They're going to put the first 2 out.
The first 2, okay,
and then they're also putting episode 7 and 8 out on the same day as well.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, because cliffhangers are awful to deal with.
Yes.
Yeah,
especially when like people keep like theorizing about the cliffhanger, and you're like, I know this isn't right, but I'm not going to tell you. It's like when we got screeners for She-Hulk and everybody was theorizing that Matt was going to show up in episode 4, and I'm like, he's not. He's not. I promise, he's not.
I saw someone theorize, post their theory on Twitter that was, what if the hug we see between Omega and Echo in the trailer is because Echo's going to leave the Bad Batch and go off with Rex to help save the clones? And I was like, you're right. I can't tell you that you're right. How are you that right?
But I can't tell you that. I know. Yeah.
So and I was like, oh. And one of my friends had shared it and was like, people keep saying this and I don't want it to be true. It can't be true. It can't be. I was like, oh, baby.
And we're over here
baby.
I forget. I had a friend, this wasn't anything to do with like screeners, but I had a friend who was watching Doctor Who for the first time. And she said something about, I wonder if River Song is Amy and Rory's kid. And I just... They had a look. She's like, she is, isn't she? And I was like, don't say these things to me. I think it wasn't even that she was his baby. It was that she was the one in the astronaut suit or something. You know? I was like, what? Yeah, you gotta have a good poker face when you're reviewing stuff at a time.
But at least we're sitting in the corner nodding. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's like, that would be crazy, right?
But
that's a good one.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see what else is coming.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy that we're doing it because I mean, I saw 2 people that saw the screeners and they just did a thread of spoilers on Twitter. I'm like,
they're going to get in trouble for that. They're going to get their screener access revoked.
I tagged Disney. I was like, look what's happening, bro. Just make sure you know who you're sending these screeners to.
Yeah.
Because that was really messed up.
Yeah.
That's
not cool. Don't do that.
You don't want to, that's why this episode's not going to come out until after the episode 8, 7, and 8 have come out, because I know usually we will post some clips in the meantime of stuff that, isn't spoilers for what has come out. But, which is why I want to talk specifically about the season opener. But yikes, y'all, you can't do that. It bugs me when people want to ruin things for other people. I'm like, everybody's a fan. I'm like,
not only that, but then you're gonna end up messing up screeners for everybody else that that do respect, the embargoes and stuff. So
exactly, I know, because right now, the social embargo's up, so you can kind of say a little bit about it, but the review embargo is not up until the first 2 episodes drop on Wednesday, as of us recording this. So. But so it's going to be really fun I love the fact that then I can wake up in the morning, because I work on Wednesdays and I don't always feel like getting up early to watch anything. And so at least I can wake up and check Twitter and not get spoilers.
Okay. I don't know what happened.
And it is fun to see other people theorize when you know. I'm like,
you already know
the showrunners feel. Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of, Cody is gonna get killed. Cody's gonna get killed. I'm like, no, you're gonna be pleasantly surprised. You're gonna be pleasantly surprised. Or that Gunji was gonna get killed, of course, because he's a Jedi, so naturally he has to die, right?
Well, we're past orders. Well, we're past the initial order 66 at this point. I do wonder if we're gonna. Now that I'm thinking about that, I do wonder if we're gonna see any. If we're gonna start seeing the. Oh, why can I not think of their names? Ooh, the ones that hunt the Jedi.
Oh, the Inquisitors?
The Inquisitors, thank you. I know, I wonder if we'll start seeing
that would be
any
fun.
of the Inquisitors.
How they start, how they first started and what they do to condition them. That'd be cool.
I'll be interested, because Vader showed up at the end of season 2 of Rebels for the first time, if I'm remembering correctly.
And the Inquisitors were already there. They're already established.
Yeah. So I'm like, are we going to get an Inquisitor or a Vader at the end of the season? Because we've already seen Palpatine. I thought Palpatine was going to be an end of the season thing when I saw the trailer. Yeah. So
if we do get Vader, it'll probably be towards the end, maybe, of the season.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I know that one of the other things I did have written down is I'm wondering if they're going to start laying some of the groundwork for somehow Palpatine has returned.
For the cloning?
Yeah, for the cloning and everything, because I had just had a gut instinct that their client that was after Gunji was probably Palpatine, or at least somebody that Palpatine has employed. Oh,
because they did take Nala Su at the end of the first season. Yeah.
And she had the same, or the doctor who met her had the same marking as the doctor in The Mandalorian.
From Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also a bit of it. I don't know if you guys have read Shadow of the Sith. I've read it. I haven't finished it yet, but that sets up some of it too, because it's the story of Rey's parents partly. But
that's that's something that goes all the way back to the Clone Wars series, when Palpatine was kidnapping the Force-sensitive children before the Jedi could get to them.
Yes,
and it's implied that was because he wanted to see if it was possible to replicate Force sensitivity. And then it's also implied that that's why the Kaminoans were there to kickstart cloning and then to integrate. And that's a big part of the Omega's Force sensitive theory, is that they finally got it with her. And that's why Nala Se was intent on keeping her away from Kamino.
Yeah.
Because she didn't actually want Palpatine to have access to that.
Okay, that's interesting.
There's a lot of different storylines that they could do.
Yes.
I hope that I hope for all the things that we can theorize about them doing, I hope there's some surprises in there too, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I was shocked when Gunji showed up, I was like, oh yeah.
Well, I mean, Ryo Chuchi, I said, I wasn't expecting her, except she's always in the back of my mind, like, what's going on with her? What is she doing? Maybe we'll get a name drop or something. But then when she showed up, I was like, oh my God.
And I like that they gave her like a big, role in this thing, because it's very important, her actually being one of championing, for the clones and stuff. So and then we went back to 79. So I was like,
79. Like,
another thing I was thinking when I was thinking about like the clones' ages, I'm like, how do they? At what point do they allow the clones to drink? Like, how do we gauge that? I'm like, what's the clone legal drinking age? Because like I said, something that's fascinating to me and that I think about a lot is how Omega is probably technically older than the rest of the batch. At least in the number of years, even though they have accelerated aging. And so, but I don't know. It's something that I find very interesting that I think about a lot when I'm watching this show. Especially when they mention about her being a kid. And I'm like, she's older than you probably, but whatever.
I do also want to mention there was an increased number of clones with beards.
Yes, there was.
And I was like, I am liking this development. Has the army for the Empire, the Galactic Army, are their rules lessened than the Gar? Because the reason there weren't that many clones with beards in the Gar likely is because they have clean-shaven rules. But there were at least 5 clones with beards.
Yes, with beards. I was like,
I wonder if that's also them, like, because they can't do the color on their armor anymore. I wonder if that's them, like, trying to still have some individuality too. I wonder.
Yeah, it could be
interesting. Yeah, there's just, the more you think about the clones as a concept, it's just like,
that's my daily life.
Yeah,
that's all I do. I'm wearing a Camino shirt right now, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've got one of my I don't know if you can read it, but it says the Bad Feelings Club, and it's all like a couple different times with the characters that I have a bad feeling about that. It was that or my Ahsoka jersey, because it has the Phoenix Squadron on it. But yeah, so there's a lot to look forward to. I can't wait to talk to you guys about the rest of the season.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're in for a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah, we are, I think.
Because like Dave Filoni said at Star Wars Celebration, like, is Clone Wars a kid's show? We decapitate people, so
it is incredibly sad.
It is incredibly sad.
We're over here killing clones left and right in college. Oh, cool.
Yeah, no peace for us.
I'm like, I should just not get attached to any of the new ones because they keep killing them off.
Definitely not.
Me with Captain Wilco. No, I was like, I finally was like, he's making me mad, but you know what? He's fine. I'm attached to him, and then bang.
Yep.
No, once you saw him say, "We got to do the right thing," I was like,
he's gone.
I was like, no,
You can't just follow the rules, damn it.
I'm like, that was as bad as Aunt May saying, "With great power comes great responsibility," and No Way Home.
I know. Like, well,
it's like, we're done.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, I'm like, all right. So yeah, next time we'll be talking about The Crossing, Retrieval, Metamorphosis, The Outpost, Pabu, Tipping Point, and the 2-part finale, The Summit and Plan 99. Which
99? What is it?
I know. I'm like, I'm like, does Plan 99 mean we're all back together?
How it's like the inverse, like Order 66. You flip it on its head.
Plan 99. You see all these bunch of clones like, nah, let's go. We out of here. Take us away.
That's a good one. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
All right, so this is going to wrap up this episode of Temple of Geek Podcast. We want to thank you guys for being here today. It was really great talking to you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok by using the handle Temple of Geek. If you want to check out some of our other episodes or shows, why don't you head over to templeofgeek.com, and there you will find all sorts of content that pertains to the world of geek. So thanks again, guys, for being here, and get back together soon to talk about more clone stuff.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for having us.
It was fun.
Please follow us on Twitter at Temple of Geek. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Temple of Geek. And remember to visit templeofgeek.com, your one stop for all things geek.
Goodbye.
This will conclude our transmission.